Hi, I'm Dana Takaki with Savvy Optics, and I have learned a few things recently. One, cleaning optics is actually kind of hard. It takes a lot of patience. And the second thing is Autoscan is terrific. So Dave and I are going to auto scan this part. It's a 38mm flat part, and we have it set up to scan. So first thing we're going to do is create a file. We're going to call this flat 38 1, and we're going to map the data. It's an ellipse. It's actually 38mm by 38mm, but we're going to start at 40mm by 40mm so we get the entire surface, and then we're going to set it at the top center and hit OK. So and then we're going to auto scan. So when I was doing these parts, I was using the joystick and the XY stage, and it actually is kind of tiring scrolling around the parts. So the auto scan allows you to set up the part and it will step across the part. Now it steps in a square. So right now we're seeing, the corners, but it will step across the part. And while it's stepping across the part, I can look at the defects. So this is the edge of the part. You can see there's a couple of things. Are those defects or is that dust?
It's probably dust. I mean, I did clean the part as well as I could, but dust is continually falling, and this isn't in a clean room. So it's either dust or repeat particles.
Okay, so there's a scratch. So can you pause that so we can take a closer look at the scratch?
Sure.
So here we can pause and look at the scratch that we just passed. And
it's a number 10.
Okay, so why don't you save the data? So if this were a real part, we could stop at the scratch and
it's a brighter point. It's a 20.
Okay.
So if I were going to actually record this, I would probably go ahead and get a size on the scratch. So what I'll do is get a marker, mark one end, right click, that starts the scan, the scratch length measurement, translate it until the other end of the scratch is at my mark, and then hit end scratch. So this is about an 11mm long scratch. It's pretty long. And as a number 20, that's going to be a pretty bad scratch. So we'll mark it as scratch 1 or S1. Save the data. Change it to be a scratch. We'll put it on our map as S1 so we can find it later. Hit OK. And now we've got that scratch recorded on our part map.
And now we can continue and it'll go back to where we left off. And again, it's a little relaxing to just sit here and watch the part pass underneath the camera. So there's some more of those parts. Now that actually looks like a pretty good scratch. If it were a real part, we might stop and document that scratch. And so now we're at the other end of the part. Now we passed something earlier that we were talking about. When we pass that again, why don't we pause and you can explain what you know about it.
Okay.
Okay, so there it is. Can you pause?
Mm-hmm.
So
this big mark here is probably a spit mark. I actually tried cleaning this off a couple times and it doesn't come off. So it's pretty, it's either something well adhered to the surface, or with something that large, more likely it's a spit mark where someone maybe had too much garlic in their lunch and came back and breathed on the part, and we got a little droplet of spit that's about 1/4 millimeter in diameter, and as that spit dries, it then actually etches right into the part, and you can't clean it off. It's actually etched into the part. Most likely these are also spit marks here. A lot of times they'll come in a group, right? Because somebody sneezes or coughs or something.
Why don't you take a picture of that one?
Sure. We'll call that, I mean, now a spit mark is not a special category. It's just called a dig in nil. So we'll go ahead and label it D1. And we'll save the data and we'll call this D1 here. And I could actually write a note if I wanted to, but it's going to be treated as a dig anyway, so that's probably fine. And now we can go ahead and continue again.
So I know we can make this faster. Well, there's another little scratch. We can make this faster but this speed seems comfortable if we're trying to see surface imperfections.
Yeah, right now we're only grabbing a 3x3 millimeter slice out of the center of this imaging field. And so that gives a nice clean background so you don't have a lot of artifacts in the corners. If I was really, in a hurry, I would open that up to 5x5 millimeters, perhaps. That'd go about twice as fast. And you'd pick up a little bit of an artifact around the edges. If I was doing auto scan, that might be a problem, but I'm sorry, if I was doing auto inspect, that would be a problem, but with just auto scanning, it's perfectly fine. You can still capture all the scratches and digs and everything. And if you're just doing an auto scan and visually inspecting like we're doing now, and then pausing to record scratches or digs of interest, larger steps are probably a little more appropriate.
I imagine if you get good at this too, you can do a larger step. I kind of like having it overlap so I can see something and then catch it on the next pass. So we're almost done with this part. Now we've skipped a lot of defects, but this is just a demo. So if I were doing a real inspection, I might stop and catch more of these different defects. It's mostly digs and scratches, probably because of the handling this part has gone through.
Yeah, it's another one of our classroom parts. So they see a lot of wear and tear. I think we put this part into service in the classroom about 10 years ago. So quite a few people have handled this part since then. Now that might be cleaning residue there. I'm not sure. Those little specks that are all over the place.
So we're almost done, and then we're going to have the image of the entire part with those digs shown.
Yep, that's right.
And then after that, we'll save that data, and that could be reviewed by the material review board. Sometimes the whole part map is pretty nice if you are looking for recurring defects like tooling marks. And you can also catch something big, like if there's somebody's fingerprint or if there's a lot of cleaning residue. Okay.
There's your surface map. So you can actually see the whole part here. Here's our really big scratch that we saw, the number 20, that's 11 millimeters long. And here are the spit marks that we were looking at earlier. And you can see there's quite a few other artifacts on there. A lot of those are probably
now from here we can go back and look at those large scratches, right?
Yeah, you can actually zoom in, and like that really, here's this scratched up area, kind of stands out nicely in the field. You got some pretty pronounced scratch here and a pretty pronounced scratch here.
Now can we go back and have the Savvy inspector measure those scratches?
Yeah, so what I would do is probably save the tiled image and stop the tiling, but this is still running, right? So now we can just go ahead and manually drive back to where we know that imperfection was. There's that really bright scratch. So that guy there is, if it's treated as a scratch, that's cause for rejection because it's a number 100 scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and label that S2. Now, there are some who would treat that actually as a dig because it's only about 0.5 millimeter long. So depending on what the specification is and which standard you're using, this could either be a scratch or a dig.
Well,
we'll call it a scratch.
And we're going to basically save that image. So whoever reviews it can decide later on, is it 100 scratch or is it a 50 dig?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So should we close out the file?
Yeah, let's close out the file. So when we close out the file, as I understand it, the entire map plus all the little images that we've taken all get dumped into a common file. So we can put this part away, but someone in the next room or even in the next state can pull up this file and see all those images.
That's right.
Okay, well, I'm a big fan of Auto Inspect. It's certainly saving me a lot of the mechanical strain of using the mouse. So thanks for that demo.
Yep.
I'll take a look at the next part. Bye.